Hello and welcome to the Singapore Budget Forum 2011. I'm Dominic Low. The Singapore government has just unveiled its budget for fiscal 2011, aimed at strengthening the economy and society. Central to the budget is a 6.6 billion Sing dollar benefits package that includes a grow and share package to allow Singaporeans to share the fruits of the strong economic growth last year. This will be through enhanced grants and providing top quality long-term care for the elderly. There are also incentives to help businesses cope with rising costs, invest in workers' skills and productivity, as well as expanding overseas. And to discuss the budget, I'm joined in the studio by Finance Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam. Minister, welcome. I also have a panel of guests. Ryan Cheo, he's Managing Director of FarEastFlora.com. Teo Seong Seng, President of the Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Professor Lee Hin Peng, Chairman of St. Luke's Eldercare. Professor Lee is also from the Department of Epidemiology and Public Health at the National University Hospital. And we have Kartini Abdul Khalid, grassroots leader at Punggol Central. Last but not least, K. Tana Lechmi, Vice President of the Healthcare Services Employees Union. Welcome to all of you. Minister, if I may, let's start with you. What were the key priorities for you in formulating this budget, considering we have an improving economy, but there's also inflation?
Well, I think the key priority is to build an inclusive society. We've come out of the crisis very well. Our problems are not ones of the short term. The rising costs is an issue, but we can deal with that problem. Our real challenge is to make sure that 10 years from now, we are in a different place. A different place, and that Singaporeans must be better off, not just in their incomes, but their standards of living. A different place in the sense that we are a more inclusive society, where everyone feels they're part of it. Everyone feels that they're contributing, that they're moving up with the rest. You feel you're part of the same community. So building an inclusive society is, I think, the principal objective of this government, of this budget. And in the set of measures that we've introduced today, I think we're taking a major step forward.
Let me just go through our panelists and get the reaction from all of you. Maybe, Ryan, let's start with you. Were there any surprises for you in this budget?
I think that the workers' levy, because I'm in business, and so I think the workers' levy part of it is something that I'm concerned as a small business. And, well, the 0.5% increase in CPF is quite anticipated. And that may not necessarily add to a lot of the cost. But what I'm concerned is actually the tightening of the foreign labours, you know, that I think Minister has already put forward. But that's a long-term strategy for Singapore. So internally, I think that we will have to strategize on how to be more productive and perhaps make better use of a local workforce.
Seong Seng, you represent a wide variety of businesses. What were they looking forward to for this budget? Did all of it come true?
First of all, it's a very balanced budget. It's a people's budget, I call it. But what my members are concerned, we recently did a survey. 70% their first concern was how to combat the rising costs of doing business. And I can't help it to say that we're a bit disappointed that there was nothing solid to help the business community to combat the cost of doing business, especially those who cannot outsource or go overseas. So that is a concern of the business community.
Tana, let's come to you. You represent also the union. Do you think they will be happy with this budget?
Yeah, I guess from the labour movement perspective, I think it is a good budget, and it is an inclusive budget, I would say, from the workers' perspective. And if you ask me, are there surprises? I would say there's one striking, pleasant surprise. That is the special employment credit. That is to encourage or give impetus to businesses to recruit more older workers. And this is a very good opportunity for us to harness the human capital, the only asset we have in Singapore. And the other element is the continuing education. And I think a lot of money has been plowed into the CET, and I think we have to appreciate what the government is doing in trying to uplift the real wages of the workers.
Kartini, let me come to you. You also work with grassroots. Do you think this will sit well with the people that you've talked with?
Oh, well, I'm glad to see a lot of measures announced to help the low income. And I suppose if you were to compare this budget to last year's budget, which was mainly to help the low income and businesses, the middle income is getting a lot of benefits from tax reliefs and the various measures. I suppose if there's one thing that's a surprise, I would call it a mixed surprise. It's a good surprise in the sense that you're increasing the amount that's being given to people on the public assistance scheme. But the question I would have is, what is a $40 increase with all the inflation that's going, with the inflation rate going up? I know that this group of people are getting a lot of help in other forms, but still, and there's also the question of how much is enough. But still, really, with inflation going up, what really is an increase in $40?
Prof Lee, let's go to you. Your thoughts on the medical front. Is this budget helping on the medical front?
I think from the VWO perspective, I think this is a very caring budget. And so I'm very happy to note, for example, the one-to-one matching grant from the government for some of the long-term care facilities, as well as the continuation of the 250% tax deduction. But the concern that was raised by Ryan is, I think, a very important one, the foreign worker levy, because we also have to employ a lot of foreign workers in the healthcare sector, in the VWO. So I really would like the Minister to help us see how can we best attract Singaporeans into this sector.
Minister, would you like to respond to the panel?
Sure. I think they're all valid points. Costs are going up, yes. They're going up because our economy is doing extremely well. Unemployment we're basically in a full employment situation. And in that situation, businesses competing for the same workers, for the same managers, competing for the same rental space, prices go up. These are the signs of an economy that's succeeding. How do we prevent costs from going up even further? I think it's important for the government not to overstimulate the economy. In this budget, there's been a good package for households, both for the short term and the long term. But if you add on to that a package for businesses, then you run a very real risk of overheating the economy. And we may appear to be solving the problem, but we're storing up future cost increases. So the real task is to restructure the economy so that we depend on less labor and that we are more efficient. How do we go about it? I'm very sympathetic to Prof. Lee's organization, St. Luke's, because they're doing a social service, very hard to attract Singaporeans. But amongst businesses, how do you decide on which businesses gets the workers? The price mechanism is still the best. So I think we all accept as Singaporeans, we can't keep bringing in more and more foreign workers, and particularly not at a faster rate than our local labor force is growing. So how do we control or contain the growth of labor?
You have this $6.6 billion benefits package, the Grow and Share package. Do you think it will help reach out to the income groups that you've set out in this budget?
Well, first, 6.6 is not all 6.6 this year. We've been quite careful to make sure that we have a balance between benefits that are received this year, enjoyed this year, and benefits that are a stream that you get over time. In fact, we're putting aside more for the future than for this year. Part of the reason is because of what I was just talking about. If you put 6.6 billion into the economy for people to spend this year, that's probably not a good idea. Prices will go up, and people will not end up feeling better off. But if you give a reasonable sum now, help people offset the inflation that they're already seeing, and save the rest. Save the rest for meaningful benefits to help the elderly, to help our kids, to help lower-income Singaporeans lift themselves up and try and do as well as possible. I think that's a better strategy. So 6.6 is really 3.2 for this year, and 3.4 for the future.
Kartini, do you think, speaking to your grassroots people who come by and talk to you, do you think they will like this year's budget in that sense that they're getting the Grow and Share package?
I suppose, yes. I suppose, I mean, like, if you're talking about cash, that will definitely help people, especially those in the lower income sectors. But this would be more of a short-term stopgap kind of a measure. The question is, what do we do about the other struggles that this group is dealing with? A lot of people I meet at Meet the People sessions, for example, they face problems with their housing loans. These are not first-time house buyers. You have some measures for this group of people, but these are people who have been caught by their housing loans and are not able to pay for, to meet the payments, and they are struggling and they get into bad debt, and some of them end up getting into rental flats. So the growth dividend funds would be helpful, but I suppose that's not the cure, for all of their problems.
Minister, some observers have noted that the timing of this budget also coincides with the election which is coming in 2012, and termed it as election budget. How do you see this budget, in relation to that?
Well, it's true that it's the last budget before the elections, which have to be held by February next year. But quite frankly, if you look at the shape of the budget, are we running a deficit? Are we running a surplus? Are we giving too much today versus putting aside something for tomorrow? I think it's quite balanced, and with or without any elections before the next budget, this would have been what I would have wanted to do. Provide a significant boost to lower and middle income people, particularly in education and particularly for the elderly. Help the group that Kartini was talking about to own their own homes. There'll be some people who need a rental home, and where it may be unwise for them to actually purchase a home. But there's a significant group who are low income, lower middle income. They'd like to own a home because it's not just a financial proposition. It's a different type of pride in being a citizen, and you feel that you're part of the estate in the same way as everyone else. You're moving up with everyone else, and the value of your flat goes up each time there's a beautification or renovation of the place. It's a different type of pride as a citizen. So we want to make more of that possible.
All right, we're going to take a breather here. Singapore Budget Forum 2011. We'll be right back.